Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we're doing something a teensy bit different today. We are taking a look at a Star Wars Black Series figure, which isn't super duper new for the channel, but it is a Black Series figure with a custom head. And clearly that figure is Sabine Wren from Rebels, because, obviously, and also it is the title of the video. Anyway, I got this figure a fair bit ago, and it's cool. Sabine's a great character. I love mostly the depiction of the character in figure form. Also was on sale on BBTS for I think $14 or something like that, so I was super glad to get that. But the head that the figure came with is not great. For those who are unfamiliar, yeah, this is what she came with. This is really not great. So, I pretty much left the helmet on, but I thought it would be cool to have a nice unmasked head, and then I saw this head on eBay. It's a 3D printed version, and from what I can tell, it's pretty darn close to the CGI model from the show. The only problem was, the first problem was the head did not come painted. It was just a flat gray color. The second, much more significant problem is that it did not fit. It's a 3D printed head that is meant to go on this specific Black Series figure, and it did not fit. Part of that is because the crappy original head is made of a slightly malleable plastic that when you heat it up, it's much easier to pop on and off. And this being 3D printed, it doesn't have anywhere near that level of give, even if you heat it up. So that was a problem. And that required a lot of work to show you what I'm talking about. Thankfully, I got it to a point where it actually functions as it should, but I had to carve and shave down the ball peg on the neck a lot to get it to work. It was kind of annoying, and it took a while. I also trimmed down the inside of the neck hole socket, whatever, and you can see that that's the gray that it originally was. But thankfully now it pops on there just fine and can actually turn without wrecking things, and even gets a little bit of tilt, and you still get some of that up and down. So yeah, fortunately, after a lot of work, it finally fit on the peg. And then, because Diana is awesome, she agreed to paint the unpainted head. This is definitely not my work. I do not have that level of skill for detailing, but yes, she painted the head. So the sculpt is part of the 3D print, but all the paintwork, the coloring, the detailing is all Diana. And this is way more accurate to the character in the show than the default head, because that's a comparison. Aside from this thing not fitting properly originally, and I had to mod it, there's also the fact that it does not fit the helmet. That helmet just, it will not. There's no way it's going on there. The head is too big for the helmet, so, oh well. Fortunately, I could still put it in her hand, or if I wanted to, I could pop this head on and just put the helmet on that and do it that way. So there are options. But anyway, let us start with the figure proper. So aside from that crappy default head, I do really like the detailing they got done here. It's entirely possible that the armor deco from the figure as it was originally done does not match the hair color that she has. I haven't watched all of Rebels. I'm on season 4 or 5 or something like that, and Sabine changes her look so much that I'm honestly not sure if she ever had the blue hair with this particular armor deco, but I don't care. Mostly because Sabine constantly changes her look, so this very much could still work. And also because Diana's got hair very much like this, so I figured this was kind of the hairstyle coloring that we really needed to go with for this figure. Anyway, the figure itself is very much like the figure or character, very much like the character from the show. And I love the look of it. It's got that, it does look like Mandalorian armor, but with a different personalized style to it, which obviously there are these little hints here and there throughout, not just in the deco that's going on with the armor, but these little paint flecks on the forearms and on the boots of how she's an artist. She does a lot of painting. It's cool that they managed to convey that with the paint job on the figure. And I feel like even if I didn't know the show, I would still be able to pick up on that at least, with the paint splatter that she's got all over her boots and gloves. I also like the deco itself. I think the underlying suit is nice, with this kind of tan color for the lower body, more of a gray color for the upper body. And I also like how the lighter detailing, it kind of breaks up between light and dark shades of whatever tone it is. So you've got these like brown tones for the pants, the gray tones for the torso. But I like how that kind of dividing line between the lighter and darker colors actually follows all the way through into the other colors. So that line goes from the upper body straight down into the lower body. That's a very neat design choice for the bodysuit, I guess is what it is. I also like the asymmetry both in the knee pads, which are the same knee pads, but like the coloration is different. Ignoring the paint splatters, because obviously that's going to be asymmetrical, but I like the asymmetrical knee pads, and I like the asymmetry on the shoulder pauldrons, how they've got the kind of checkerboard pattern here and the emblem here. I think that's her house crest, I think. It's been a while since I've seen that episode. And even in the chest plate, it's asymmetrical with the Rebels logo on one side and the stripes on the other. The deco is also great because there's some nice weathering in just a few places, like up in the chest there, kind of along the edge there, some weathering around the edges of this pauldron and some nice scratching. It's very nicely done. And I like how the shoulder pads also kind of go around the elbow, so when you bend it, like it does break the sculpt of the shoulder pad, but when you straighten it out, it just comes back together. That's really nice. Also, when I first got this figure, I never realized that I had the the forearms were turned around improperly, so the lower part of the elbow pad was facing up, which is just weird, but now it's fixed. She also has some nice detailing around the belt with the painted buckles, and they even molded and painted a little communicator right on the side there, and that's a very nice little detail. It also helps to prop up her helmet if she's holding it under her arm. And then there is the new head, which is very, very much improved, as I said, compared to the original. It feels ever so slightly too big for the body. I mean, I think it's okay. And that kind of stylization, I think, kind of works with the way the characters were done in the show. But from some angles, it does kind of feel like her head's a little too big for her body. And also, because of the way that I had to shave down the peg and cut everything, I kind of sometimes feel like her head sits a little too low. But stuff happens, you know, it's for how much better this head looks now that it's been painted and, you know, can actually sit on the figure, I don't mind. It's not a big deal to me at all, and I just think it looks great. So yeah, for being 3D printed, the sculpt on the head is pretty darn nice. It's hard to tell, but there is some kind of texturing in the hair to make it look like hairs. Unfortunately, this was the only expression they had. I would have preferred a slightly less intense expression, but when I went to purchase the head from the eBay seller, they had this one where she had very short hair, and I very much prefer this hairstyle over the really short hair. And then they had a third option that was supposedly different, but it just looked like the short-haired head again, and I didn't want to risk getting the wrong thing, so I just went with this one. But I do kind of wish that there was a slightly softer expression, though when Diana was customizing it, she gave one eyebrow a slight curve, which I think is great. It adds just a little bit more expression and personality to the head, so it's not like just a straight scowl. I'm also kind of surprised that for a 3D printed object, it actually managed to get some nice contours on the much smaller details, like in the nose and the ears, or, well, ear, because you can't see the ear on that side. Other gripe is because of the 3D printing, there's this ring back here, which there's really nothing that can be done about it. The byproduct of getting the 3D printed head, I guess, which again, I am bummed that I had to do so much modding to get it to fit, but the important thing is I managed to get it on there and Diana painted it to look fantastic. So anyway, moving on from the deco, let's go over articulation real quick. The head is on a ball joint. It is definitely a little bit more limited now versus the original because I had to shave it down so much just to get this head to fit, but you do get a little bit of tilt and left and right movement, which is a huge improvement because when I first tried to jam this thing on there, it was on so tight it wouldn't actually turn at all. And then there is up and down movement from the hinge at the base of the neck. The arms can go out, and the shoulder pauldrons are a little bit soft so they can get out of the way. And rotate all around. There is a swivel at the elbow itself, which is not ideal, but for what you end up, you know, using, like, it's fine. And the elbow bend is also pretty decent. It's just over 90, which is pretty good. Could be a little better, but I'm not too picky. You get wrist swivels, and then this hand bends in and out, and this hand bends up and down. which, as I understand it, is pretty common with Black Series figures where they alternate the way that the hands bend. In the upper torso, you have a little bit of an, like, kind of crunch, where it crunch forward and crunch back ever so slightly, but more than anything, it's for rotation. Get some side to side. There's nothing at the waist. All that rotation is from the upper body, but I think that's okay for what it is. These little pouches are kind of soft so they can get out of the way of the legs moving, and I know there's another version of this figure where these are either attached or strapped to the leg. This is not that version, obviously, so these get out of the way pretty well for when you want to come out. The legs don't come out super duper far, but there's some spread there. You can go forward pretty much all the way, and then backward is stopped because of the sculpting back here. And there is a thigh swivel, which is great, but unfortunately, because of the design of the pants, it does break that nice line up. I can't think of a way they could have possibly done that differently unless the pants were actually fabric, and that's not going to happen in a $20 Black Series figure. The knees are double jointed though, which is nice, and you can get really, really nice bend. Bing. From there, you also have the ankle pivots, so you can go back quite a bit. Forward, it gets blocked by the shin guard, or whatever that is there, the ankle guard, and then the foot can rotate to give you a little bit of tilt. Accessory-wise, she comes with her helmet, which is really, really nice. Like, this is pretty much spot on. Really nice detailing. I like the deco on it. I love the colors. It does kind of have a little bit of an owl look to it, kind of. And I like how the T-shaped visor is there for that typical Mandalorian look, but it's got some interesting kind of more slender curves in different places that make it stand out from a sort of typical Mandalorian helmet. And there's the rangefinder that can actually move down, which is nice. And again, this unfortunately cannot fit on the new head, but you can stick it on the head that came packed in, which I'm not going to right now, but you can do that. She also comes with 2 of her blasters, which do look like regular pieces of gray plastic, but there is actually a little bit of weathering on them, which is pretty cool. Granted, they're just silver and gray. There's really not much else to them, but I still appreciate that there is that weathering effect. It does bring out some of those details. She can, of course, hold them both, and she's got the trigger finger extended a little bit on both hands, so you could put the blasters in her hands. And this one fits in a little bit better because the trigger finger is curled in a little bit more. This one, it's out a bit more, so it still works, but it's not, like, her finger doesn't quite go through the trigger guard. But she can dual wield her pistols if you so desire, and I very much appreciate that. You can also holster her pistols in each of the holsters, so if you wanted to, you could slip them both into the hip holsters, which is very cool. And then she also comes with her little spray paint thing, which she barely ever uses after the first season, at least from, where I'm at. I don't know if she continues to use it in later seasons, but that can go in her hand similar to the pistols. There you go. So she can spray paint things, but it can also go in the holster. It's not as obviously intentional of a fit as the pistols, but I found that if you slide it in with the nozzle facing back, it will go in that way just fine. Like, you could have her with either both of her pistols holstered and her paint gun in one hand, or have the paint gun holstered and, like, one or both of the pistols out. I very much like that. There we go. There is my preferred, at least currently preferred way of posing Sabine for display. And I just think that looks really cool with her holding the helmet. Alright, so let's get her off to the side so we can do those size comparisons. Here she is with a more or less standard size Transformers Deluxe. Here she is with another Black Series figure, this one being Captain Rex. Let me move her in a little bit more. I'll bring these in closer because this is silly to have them back that far. Right, so here she is with the Black Series Captain Rex, and Rex is a little bit taller, just because here she is with the Reveltech Amazing Yamaguchi Spider-Gwen. Also just because here she is with the Figma Metroid Prime 3 version of Samus. And because it's always unavoidable, here she is with the Duck Tank. Alright, that is it for Star Wars, the Black Series, Rebels, I guess, Sabine Wren, with a custom head, and this is great. I love this. I mean, the figure is very cool right from the get-go, as long as you keep that helmet on. But for as cool as she looks with the helmet on, I do like having her like this with the helmet off. And having a much more show-accurate head thanks to the 3D printed model and Diana's talents as an artist, this ends up looking utterly fantastic. But anyway, I think that's going to do it, and as I said, I think that this is just a fantastic combination. But what do you all think of Black Series Sabine Wren with or without the custom head? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.